Thanks for joining us on Arirang News. I'm Kim Dami in Seoul. Israel's military said Thursday that it had struck Hezbollah's intelligence headquarters in the Lebanese capital. Oil prices jumped on U.S. President Joe Biden's comment on possible Israeli strikes on Iran's oil infrastructure. President Yoon will be off to Southeast Asia this weekend ahead of the annual summit of ASEAN countries taking place in Laos next week. He'll also be stopping by the Philippines and Singapore for state visits. North Korea on Friday morning flew yet another set of trash-carrying balloons to South Korea in what is already the regime's 24th time doing so this year. The Israeli military said on Thursday it had hit Hezbollah's intelligence headquarters in Beirut. U.S. President Joe Biden signaled possible Israeli strikes on Iran's oil facilities, which led to a spike in oil prices. Our Lee Si-hoo reports.
Large plumes of smoke rose from Beirut's southern suburbs on Thursday after multiple Israeli attacks on the area, one of which targeted Hezbollah's intelligence agency. The Israel Defense Forces said in a statement that they attacked Hezbollah's intelligence headquarters, responsible for aggregating intelligence about Israel and its military. Lebanese state media NNA confirmed there were 3 airstrikes on the Lebanese capital. At least 9 people were reported dead. Also on Thursday, U.S. President Joe Biden, when asked whether he would support Israel striking Iran's oil facilities, said that his government is in discussions.
We're in discussion with that. I think that would be a little, anyway.
Biden also said he will not negotiate in public when asked if he had urged Israel not to attack Iran's oil facilities. Previously, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had said that Iran would pay for its large-scale missile attack against Israel on Tuesday. The possibility of an Israeli attack on Iranian oil infrastructure has since caused market worries. Oil prices rose with Brent crude futures settling up over 5% on Thursday at $77.62 a barrel. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures also settled up over 5% at $73.71. Both futures hit intraday one-month highs. Lee Si-hoo, Arirang News.
Ukraine says it struck a Russian radar station using American long-range ballistic missiles, while not specifying when the strike took place. As the war continues, the new NATO chief made a trip to Kyiv, during which he reaffirmed support for Ukraine. Yoon reports.
The Ukrainian military said on Thursday that it used U.S. Army Tactical Missile System, or ATACMS, ballistic missiles to strike a Russian Nebo-M radar station. The Nebo-M radar is a system that can detect fifth-generation aircraft, like the F-22 and F-35, as well as long-range ballistic missile launches. Ukraine's military says it believes Russia had 10 such operational systems left. The military did not state any details of the strike, including when it had taken place, but said that the destruction of the Nebo-M radar creates a favorable air corridor for the effective use of missile weapons. The long-range ATACMS missiles Ukraine used were sent by the United States in the spring, when Ukraine at the time had committed to only use the weapons inside its own territory, which is also the case with the British Storm Shadow. In the past months, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has been urging Western allies to let Ukraine fire their supplied long-range missiles deep into Russia. Washington has not suggested any change in its position of not lifting restrictions. Meanwhile, NATO's new Secretary General Mark Rutte, who took office on October 1st, vowed in his first speech in the post to help reinforce Western support for war-ravaged Ukraine. And just 48 hours after taking over NATO leadership, Rutte made an unannounced visit to Kyiv, where he pressured Western countries to lift their restrictions on Ukraine's use of advanced weapons to defend their country. This comes ahead of a crucial meeting of Ukraine-supporting leaders set to be led by U.S. President Joe Biden on October 12th. Rutte added he could work with whoever is elected president of the United States in November. Yoon, Arirang News.
President Yoon will travel to Southeast Asia ahead of the annual summit of ASEAN countries next week. His trip begins Sunday and includes stops in the Philippines and Singapore. Our correspondent Oh Soo-young has more.
President Yoon will travel to Southeast Asia to forge a comprehensive strategic partnership with Southeast Asian nations and strengthen economic ties with the Philippines and Singapore. Yoon's office said the Korean leader's 6-day trip will begin on Sunday and finish off in Laos for the annual summit of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. He will first make a 2-day visit to the Philippines, where he will hold a bilateral summit with President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. and meet with members of the Korea-Philippines business community.
President Yoon will engage in active economic diplomacy to expand trade and investment cooperation between the two countries and support Korean firms' efforts to secure major infrastructure projects. The two countries will also discuss expanding cooperation in future-oriented areas such as supply chains, energy, defense, and maritime affairs.
Yoon's trip to Manila will mark the first state visit by a Korean leader in about 13 years and marks the 75th anniversary of Korean-Philippines diplomatic ties, serving as an opportunity to elevate the bilateral relationship to a new level. On Tuesday, the president will then begin his state visit to Singapore, Korea's second-largest trade and investment partner in ASEAN, ahead of their 50th anniversary of diplomatic relations next year. He will meet with the city-state's top political leaders, President Tharman Shanmugaratnam, Prime Minister Lawrence Wong, and Singapore's long-serving Senior Minister Lee Hsien Loong.
Having closely cooperated over the past 50 years, focusing on trade and investment, the two sides would expand into areas like artificial intelligence, digital technology, and advanced technologies. In response to global economic uncertainties, we will also strengthen cooperation on strategic and material supply chains in cutting-edge industries such as energy and biotechnology.
Yoon will also take part in the Distinguished Singapore Lecture Series organised by a leading think tank to introduce Korea's Indo-Pacific strategy, the country's cooperation with ASEAN, and the prospect for peace and prosperity in the region if his vision of Korean unification is achieved. He will expand on the topic at the meeting of ASEAN leaders in Laos. On Thursday, Yoon will hold a meeting with the 10-member bloc, then attend a +3 meeting of ASEAN with South Korea, Japan and China, with various bilateral summits on the side. Amid speculation, he may hold a bilateral summit with the new Japanese Prime Minister, Shigeru Ishiba. A presidential official said Japan hasn't yet confirmed whether Ishiba will be in Laos, but Seoul and Tokyo are discussing a possible meeting. Finally, on Friday, Yoon will attend the East Asia Summit of 18 Indo-Pacific countries, where he will present Korea's role as a global pivotal state in defending a rules-based regional order and once again share his unification doctrine. Throughout his trip, the president will aim to strengthen political and security cooperation with ASEAN, as well as trade, investment and strategic collaborations in high-tech areas.
This will come as Korea and the regional bloc upgrade their ties to the highest level to form a comprehensive strategic partnership as they mark 35 years of dialogue relations this year. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
The Joint Chiefs of Staff said North Korea had launched what appeared to be trash-carrying balloons toward South Korea early Friday morning, just 2 days after sending more than 150 balloons. The military warned that the balloons may be headed towards northern Gyeonggi-do province and other parts of the Seoul capital area, calling on citizens to avoid touching them. Friday's launch marks the 24th time the regime has sent balloons since late May. The JCS warned that it would take stern military measures should the regime cross the line with its ongoing trash balloon campaign or cause serious damage to the South Korean people. The death toll from the devastating Hurricane Helene that hit the U.S. Southeast last week rose to 215 as of Thursday local time. Massive search and rescue operations are continuing as hundreds are still missing. Among the 6 states it passed through, including Florida and Georgia, more than half of the dead have been recorded in North Carolina. The death toll comes as U.S. President Joe Biden continued his visit to the affected areas in the Carolinas and Florida recently to survey damage and promise support. Helene is known to be the second deadliest mainland hurricane in the U.S. since Katrina in 2005. The 18th typhoon of the season, Typhoon Krathon, made landfall in southwestern Taiwan on Thursday. And despite being weakened, winds exceeded 140 kilometers per hour and damage was widespread. Lee Seung-jae reports.
Cargo containers loaded at a port in Taiwan were being tossed around like fallen leaves. Shop windows were completely torn off, unable to withstand the powerful winds brought by Typhoon Krathon. The 18th typhoon of the season, Krathon, made landfall in Kaohsiung City in southwestern Taiwan on Thursday. Despite the typhoon weakening upon landfall, winds of up to 140 kilometers per hour slammed the island, damaging power lines and causing 100,000 households to lose power. Schools and workplaces were closed all over the island, while domestic flights were also suspended. More than 10,000 residents were forced to evacuate. The Taiwanese authorities say at least 2 people are dead, while 210 people were injured. 1 person is reported missing. The slow-moving typhoon is causing more damage to the affected areas, while causing flooding in some parts of Kaohsiung. However, the typhoon is forecast to move northward and weaken further into a tropical depression by Friday, bringing rain to neighboring countries, including here in South Korea. The Kaohsiung local government has been especially careful in its disaster preparations after Typhoon Thelma killed 37 people in 1977. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
South Korea's exports of agricultural goods reached a record high during the first 9 months of this year, on the back of robust demand for Korean instant noodles, snacks, and processed rice products. According to the Agriculture Ministry, exports of agricultural goods rose more than 8% on-year, amounting to $7.38 billion between January and September. Exports of instant noodles, or ramyeon in Korean, jumped around 30% on-year to a record high of $938 million. Processed rice products such as gimbap also soared more than 41% and have already surpassed last year's total sales. Exports of snacks gained more than 15% on-year, while those of beverages also climbed more than 13%. South Korean pianist Lim Yun-chan won the Gramophone Classical Music Awards for the piano category in London on Wednesday. 2 of his albums, Liszt's Transcendental Etude and Chopin's Etude, were shortlisted, with Chopin's Etude winning by a single vote. Now, Im is the first South Korean to win the Gramophone Piano Award and the first ever to have 2 of his albums shortlisted. The 20-year-old pianist was also named the Gramophone Young Artist of the Year 2024 for his flair and probing musicianship and phenomenal technique. The Gramophone Classical Music Awards began in 1977 and honors the most significant albums of the year in the classical record industry. More people are suffering from skin problems, which are a side effect of wearing face masks during the COVID-19 pandemic and also when they visit hospitals. National researchers have found a new way to reduce sebum production by the pores in the skin due to this. Our Park Gon reports.
A patient visiting a hospital because of itchiness and pain on her facial skin reveals her outward signs of the problem when taking her mask off. A side effect of actually wearing the mask. Wearing a face mask has become mandatory to prevent the spread of infectious diseases and new COVID-19 variants, and this is causing problems with the skin under the mask.
I am not allergic to anything usually, but my face has become itchy with a lot of skin problems after wearing a face mask. It is uncomfortable since I have to use mask packs more often.
I never had any skin troubles on my face before wearing masks. I have itchiness and troubles on my face after wearing face masks.
Humid air inside the mask creates a good environment for bacteria as the temperature of the skin rises when wearing them for a long time, leading to skin problems. Researchers analyzed the facial skin of 40 men and women in their 20s to 50s with their face masks on and found that pathogenic bacteria propagated on the skin and mask due to the raised temperature and moisture. There were a total of 200 species of bacteria on the skin and face mask, and a third of them caused skin problems when tested. The researchers also detected boosting bacteria that accelerated the growth of pathogenic bacteria, revealing that this novel bacteria exacerbated skin problems in animal testing. Furthermore, they found that they could relieve the problems just by suppressing the boosting bacteria. Specifically, phenolactic acid made by human symbiotic bacteria on the skin was effective in reducing boosting bacteria numbers.
We found that boosting bacteria can worsen skin problems through animal tests. We were able to relieve skin troubles by suppressing pathogenic bacteria too.
The research team expects to develop a new treatment that minimizes antibiotic resistance by using substances that it has newly found. Park Gonu, Arirang News.
Let's take a look at the latest news in the world now. We start in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where at least 78 people have died after a ferry on Lake Kivu capsized. The ferry was carrying 278 people when it capsized on Thursday morning local time, of which at least 58 people have been rescued. According to South Kivu's governor, Jean-Jacques Breezy, on Thursday, the death toll may increase, as he said that it'll take at least 3 days to get the exact numbers because not all the bodies have been found yet. The boat was traveling from Minova in South Kivu province to Goma in North Kivu province. But overloaded with passengers, it capsized and sank only some 100 meters away from its destination. Recently, many more are crossing Lake Kivu by boat to reach Goma to avoid land travel, as the region in the east of the country is prone to armed conflict between rebels and the Congolese government forces. While Thursday's Lake Kivu accident saw a high death toll, such incidents are commonplace in the Central African country, where overcrowded boats are often to blame. OpenAI has raised some $6.6 billion in a fundraising round, with investors valuing the ChatGPT creator at $157 billion. While OpenAI did not name its investors in Wednesday's press release, the investment round was reportedly led by a U.S. venture capital fund, Thrive Capital, as well as others, including an Abu Dhabi-based investment firm, MGX. Earlier this year, OpenAI saw a valuation of $80 billion, already almost tripling its value of $29 billion from 2023, with the viral growth of its AI language model, ChatGPT. OpenAI, which is reportedly looking at a loss of some $5 billion this year, wrote in a blog post on Wednesday that the new funding will allow us to double down on our leadership in frontier AI research, as it would increase compute capacity to solve hard problems. The United Kingdom on Thursday announced that it is giving up its sovereignty over the Chagos Islands back to Mauritius, in a historic move that will allow the displaced residents to return home after decades. The deal, which the UK and Mauritius announced jointly, will include the tropical atoll of Diego Garcia, currently used by the US government as a military base. While Mauritius has full sovereignty over the archipelago, Britain will be authorized to exercise rights over Diego Garcia, guaranteeing the operation of the US base for the next 99 years. The British Foreign Minister, David Lammy, said in a statement that today's agreement secures this vital military base for the future, adding that it will shut down any possibility of the Indian Ocean being used as a dangerous illegal migration route to the UK. Miyazaki Airport in southwest Japan was closed on Wednesday after a US bomb, likely to have been dropped during the Second World War, exploded near the runway. CCTV camera footage captured the moment of the explosion, which a Japanese Transport Ministry official said had left a crater 7 meters wide and 1 meter deep in a taxiway next to the runway. A bomb disposal team was later dispatched from Japan's Ground Self-Defense Force, which identified the bomb as American-made. While almost 90 flights were cancelled, Japan's Chief Cabinet Secretary, Yoshimasa Hayashi, said Wednesday that there was no threat of a second explosion. The airport resumed operations on Thursday morning. Kim Xiang, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. We had a brisk start to the day with morning temperatures hovering in the low teens in central parts of Korea. I mean, it was only a couple of weeks ago we got out of the tropical nights. Then temperatures should rise fast with plenty of sunshine. And daily highs will be 1 to 8 degrees higher than yesterday, topping out at 25 degrees in Seoul, Gwangju, and Busan this afternoon. Meanwhile, morning rain on Jeju should turn brighter in the afternoon. Now, brace for some minor impact from Typhoon Krathon as it weakens to a tropical depression. It could drop frequent showers in the east of Gangwon-do and southern provinces through early next week. Then morning temperatures will get much warmer next week. Now, humidity has gotten much lower as well, so many probably have started turning on the humidifier. Be sure to keep these safety tips by keeping a safe distance of at least 2 meters from the humidifier, while ventilating the room every 3 hours for at least 20 minutes. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
That's all we have at this hour. Arirang News will be back at 2 p.m. Korea time. Thanks for watching.